All right, well, this is a bit of a different one this time. Ian Higgins here with Sam Perry, and we have returned from India a couple of days ago, and many people have been asking, what's your skincare routine? And outside of that, they've been asking, how was it over there? Glad you're home, etc., etc. So we thought we might just sit down and speak to some people that sometimes care about us, sometimes not, and just run through our experiences, what's happening next with the IPL. It seems like
the cricket tournament.
Damn it.
Another fucking legal notice.
And just talk about our experiences over there and what next. And this is obviously a moving beast. Everything's changing per hour at the moment, it seems like. Well, just about day by day at least. So there's no ads attached to this. There's no flash dog. There's none of that seems.
I hope there is ads at the top. People getting through like a Clive Palmer ad and a condom ad.
Yeah. A trumpet of patriots. Yes. Anyway, Pezza, welcome home.
Thanks, mate.
I was on the same flight as you, so I'm not really sure why I'm saying that. Yeah. But here we are.
Yeah.
So let's talk about. Should we just start with like how the tour was? If anyone cares about that. I thought the tour was okay.
Yeah, not bad. Yeah,
I thought we were having a good time.
Yeah,
How was the trip? Yeah, it was not a bad trip.
Hit a couple of KPIs.
18 holes.
You bring your sticks, didn't you? Yeah. No, tour was good. Tour was good. We were like 8 or 9 days into it. We had a couple of great live shows in Bengaluru and Mumbai, respectively. They were so good that we were advised to cut 1 or 2 jokes by unnamed sources.
That's how hot they were. Yeah,
yeah. That's how hot. How hot shit was.
Yeah. People get in contact saying, "Don't do that joke anymore."
That's right. And
Okay.
I can't tell you the office that it came from, but just cut it.
Well, what a wonderful environment for comedy.
Yeah. Indeed. But both good. What do we have? About 700 people there at both. No mayo. And we went to RCB versus CSK. That was a great game. We went to MIGT. That was a great game. Mm-hmm. And so we got to go to those historic grounds. We had home cooked meals. We went to Bombay Canteen, which was good. We went on the Cyrus Says podcast, which is a big deal over there. Don't know if that'll come out now because things change kind of quickly.
Right.
So yeah, it was going well. We've made lots of friends, etc. We had about 4 or 5 days to go. We were due to fly to Delhi the morning that we left, which would have been kind of going a little closer to the border, and opted not to in light of developments, and now find ourselves at home.
So if we just and by the way, thank you to everyone that came and said hello to us at the stadium or at live shows or came to live shows, meeting some people afterwards, or at cafes or at restaurants or bars or whatever. It was great to see some people over there, shake some hands, and take some photos, and it was just awesome. There's so many wonderful people over there that we got to meet, so that was awesome. But this really isn't about us. So let's talk about the night that it happened. That game in Dharamshala between Punjab and DC. They got about 10 and a bit overs into the game before the floodlights went out. Confusion reigned supreme, and before we know it, there's a suspension of a tournament. Not quite as linear as that in the information that's gone out, but that is what happened. And from our perspective, we were about to fly to Delhi that next morning. This was on Thursday night. We're flying to Delhi Friday morning to do our last 2 live shows. Had also planned to go to the Kotla for DC against GT on Monday before flying home, but that wasn't to be. So we were watching that game from our hotel room on Thursday night, and it all seemed really, really strange because lights go out sometimes at grounds. That does happen. I guess before that, there had been some tension rising a little bit to the point where there was a Mumbai Punjab game, wasn't there, at Dharamshala a couple of days later, which had already been moved. But they decided to go ahead with this game 2 days before the game they'd already moved. And so a light goes out, a floodlight goes out. That happens, I suppose. What was unusual and what sort of triggered alarms for us was that the game was called off 15 minutes after that light went out. And that's a pretty catastrophic electrical failure for the game to be cancelled in that short amount of time. Because I think people have seen, like, in any sport really where floodlights go out, they can be off for 15 minutes. I suppose they can even be off for like half an hour before they're fixed. That's probably an extreme example, but usually a floodlight goes out. There's a bit of chaos for 10 minutes or so. No one knows what's going on, but then they get back on. So for a game to be cancelled 15 minutes after a floodlight goes out, whilst also one floodlight stays on, seemed confusing. And then, of course, you see some stuff on Twitter. There's a Punjab cheerleader who's saying that she's doing a piece to camera. People might have seen that, saying that she looks terrified, to be fair, and she's saying, like, people are yelling, bombs are coming, bombs are coming. We've seen footage of is it the IPL chairman or the BCCI? The IPL chairman who's gesticulating people to get out of the stadium. I suppose in lots of regards, it makes sense to not cause a panic and to turn out a floodlight and say the game is cancelled because of that. Would do that, would not cause a panic. So there's elements of that which is smart, I suppose. But that's how it went down, and that's for us where it was like, this all feels a bit like it's getting real hot real quick. And so that was how, from my perspective, I think I've just run through the facts there. Do you want to add anything to that?
we were like, just to set the scene, it was about 9:30 local time. Each of us were in our respective hotel rooms. I presume room service crumbs next to the bed. And I don't know about you. I don't know if you're watching the cricket or not. I mean, as we've been clear, we do watch every ball of every game. And so being in India was just Shangri-La for us. You know what I mean? Normally it's every ball of every game from midnight to 4 a.m. Yeah. But this time, just the beautiful IST of 9:30 p.m. Just absolutely in heaven, you know, promised land stuff. And
I was watching reruns of Everybody Loves Raymond.
Yeah, I was watching CNN India, which was just warmongering. No, I was watching the game, and I was sort of second screening as well, millennial style, and with the old laptop there. And so, to be honest, it was like one eye on the game stuff. And Punjab were batting first. They were destroying Delhi. Stark was going for 1,000. That'll be forgotten. And but not by me, Mitch. And neck minute, the floodlights are out. But what was interesting, I thought, was that there was 4 floodlights. 3 were out. 1 was on. And I thought, just not. I'm no electrician.
There's a bit of a Sparky over here. Oh, you Sparky.
We'll get there. Yeah. But I thought that was the first thing that was odd. And but generally speaking, yeah, like lights go out, lights get fixed, game back on. You're in Dharamshala. Dharamshala is not like the stadium isn't as like doesn't have all the mod cons, you know, of like a stadium that's in a big city. And so I thought, electrical failure or something. And that was the way it was presented on Star Sports. That was what was on the lower third graphic, you know. It was like a tech failure or something like that. Their coverage quickly switched to a panel discussion about Punjab's finals chances, you know, with overlay footage, and then it switched to RCB's finals chances with overlay footage. And so this is about 5-10 minutes after they've gone off the field. No shots of the field or anything like that afterwards. We couldn't see it. No updates. Just one line saying tech failure, to my memory. And but then to be on the laptop on Twitter and it was Crick Info for me. I think I might even have the screenshot here.
Crick Info were the first ones to say it was.
Yeah, so I've got this is, I don't know the exact time, 3 minutes ago. It says that the match between Punjab Kings and Delhi Capitals has been called off in Dharamshala with a picture of a ground most of whom has its lights off, but one floodlight illuminating the field dimly. And then you go to the live commentary of Crick Info, 9:46 p.m. This Thursday evening's IPL match in Dharamshala has been called off midway. ESPN Crick Info has learned that the IPL authorities asked the stadium to be evacuated due to security reasons. That was 6 minutes after they'd actually officially called it off. Now, Star Sports, so we were watching this simultaneously. Star Sports had not made any update and didn't for, I think, at least 15 minutes, whereupon they returned and said the match has been called off due to a power outage. Right. So there was this discrepancy between how the game was being called off on the official broadcast, watched by millions, versus what other serious media outlets were saying online. So for us at the time, you're looking at your quarter to tens now, your 10 p.m.s.
Yeah. Something like
a 10 p.m. IST. That didn't add up. And so we had a flight to Delhi the next morning. which is somewhat closer to the border, not particularly close, but probably the closest capital, like, well, this capital city, but like, the closest serious city.
Yeah. About 350, 400 Ks away from Dharamshala.
But basically, you're like, you're flying closer to stuff.
Yep.
And unfortunately our, and let's have it right, like our agent in India is outstanding. We love working with him, but he was asleep, because he's a healthy person who goes to sleep, right? And so actually, like I was writing on WhatsApp to him, I wrote, like, seeing the game tonight, Shiv, Cricinfo reporting IPL authorities asked the stadium to be evacuated for security reasons. We need to raise the question about the wisdom of us flying into Delhi tomorrow, given there's potential evidence of escalation. I'm very keen on your guidance ASAP. Serious development since my last message, which was about 40 minutes before that one, have spoken to, this is our tour company, spoken to them. She recommends we cancel. She herself is not going to Delhi. We had actually received texts from players who had said they're out of there.
Yep.
There was already speculation within the hour that the IPL was going to be stopped.
Yep.
And I just wrote, well, we want to take this call as a collective, but we're going to explore the best ways to get home tomorrow. So the vibe at that time was that things had changed really quickly, and the vibe until that time had been pretty chilled, to be honest. We'd been in Bengaluru and Mumbai, which are a long way away from the north, very north of India. And like, while everybody was aware that there was conflict and that there was potential escalation, I think a lot of the rhetoric around it was that, like, there had been skirmishes, that any attacks were like, had been contained. The rhetoric was around restraint. It was around surgical strikes on military bases. There was no evidence that this thing was involving too many civilians, and like, so everything was getting on as normal. We'd had a decent hit out the night before in Mumbai, and the reason things changed was because basically this war, this conflict had visited itself upon the cricket, and it appears as though there was not a power outage, that the lights had been manually and deliberately dimmed because there were strikes going on, like 100 kilometres away, and that they were attempting to minimise the chance of providing navigational signals to people.
Yeah.
So I think that the moment this war visited itself upon the cricket was the moment the mentality changed really quickly, and the idea of flying closer to it was really just felt really wrong. It created a great deal of apprehension.
The next day, Delhi Airport cancelled 90 flights out of Delhi Airport. I understood Qantas stopped flying out of there, which is actually who we were supposed to fly home with. And for us, in relation, if anyone's wondering, they probably aren't, but if they are wondering why we decided to cancel, first of all, there was, in that moment, there was absolutely no space for comedy involving cricket.
It would have been inappropriate to put on shows, especially with the heat of our jokes. Yeah, knocking around as well.
Yeah, exactly right. So, and then of course, like, even though like we at no point did I personally feel any danger or a threat of safety or anything like that. But when you are in Mumbai, for instance, which is about an hour and a half flight from Delhi-ish, I think it's about right, south of Delhi. Like, you are in a city where it has terrorism has visited that city before in 2008. Of course, where like 170 people were killed. 10 gunmen came by boat from Pakistan from a militia group called LET in 2008. And so you are in a place where it has visited that kind of trauma before. So it's on your mind a bit. But the idea of just flying a bit closer and to provide comedy and insight and whatever was just completely inappropriate. So at that point, we were like, well, let's get the fuck out of here. Really. So but then my thoughts particularly turned to the guys that were playing that game, right? Like the guys what they must have been feeling.
Can we just quickly let's explain how we got out, and then we'll go into like the actual implications and the and what's happened with players and stuff, because you're right, that like what they've gone through, like we've got to have it completely right here, both for our Indian friends and for accuracy. Like, there is no world where we are ever going to use the word flee that we fled war.
Yeah.
Mumbai felt very safe. The airport the next morning felt as it does every other time you're there.
Yeah.
We had issues getting onto flights because rupees weren't taken, and it was a bit stressful trying to get on a flight, but we got on one, and it went the other way, but we got out. But it was important. It's important to note that we have because we're our own independent company, we didn't have too many other considerations around departing. We had all the blessings of the people we were partnering with to get out, and we were able to do that fairly flexibly as opposed to the players, right? So we got to UAE, we considered starting a new show morning after PSL, but turn that down, because we wouldn't have been able to use that. Couple of beers in Abu Dhabi, good to go.
Yeah.
Grog.
Yeah.
But that's when the thoughts actually turned to what the players at the scene actually went through.
So, as we understand, the players were already concerned about playing that game.
Yeah.
They were concerned about going there and playing that game because the action was not that far away. I mean, Dharamshala is quite close to the border. It's about as close a cricket ground as there is to Kashmir, especially an international standard ground, an IPL ground. So they were already worried about playing that game. As I said earlier, a game that was scheduled there for 2 or 3 days later had already been moved. It is remarkable that game went ahead, that they decided to play that game. Remarkable in all the negative connotations that I can assert into that sentence. It is remarkable that they went ahead with that game. The players were obviously aware of the situation. What they must have been feeling when the lights went out must have been nothing short of fucking terrifying.
And fans.
And fans.
Yeah.
And the fans.
Everybody there.
That's actually as good a point, because the fans are the ones that live there. And the people, it's easy for us to go via Abu Dhabi to Melbourne and be here and do this show here in the safety of this studio and whatever. Safety is maybe a little bit aggressive, but people live there and they go through that stuff every day, and they're the ones that don't have the sanctuary of getting out, so to speak. So, you think about those people a lot, but what they must have been feeling, what that crowd must have been feeling, what the players must have been feeling. I suppose the players, I refer to them because they are the most high-profile people in India when the cricket is on. There's obviously Bollywood, there's obviously politicians. There are many famous people in India, but no more famous than the cricketers when the IPL is on, or perhaps when Team India is playing. So they are, and terrorism has visited cricketers in the past. You think about what happened in Pakistan with the Sri Lankan team bus all those years ago. Is shocking. So the fact that they're going into that game wary, at least, if not in the back of mind, in the forefront of mind. And when the lights went out, and the information is spread to the public that it's a tech failure, I would imagine that there's not a single cricketer on that field thinking this is a tech failure. They must have been, if not panicked, stressed. And then of course,
well, they were frightened. I think that's, look, everyone can see that no player wants to go on the record right now.
Yeah.
And we'll get into the invidious position that a lot of players are in right now, as when we go to where there are reports that the IPL is considering restarting in a matter of 72 hours or some shit like that. Mm-hmm. But they would have been really frightened.
Mm. So, and then basically because the airport was closed in and around Dharamshala, obviously Pakistan airspace is still closed for those guys in the PSL as well. But so then they had to be, there was a train was chartered, and it was very good of the IPL to sort of package that up in a nice little piece, like multi-camera, sort of showing the train, how good's this going, getting the train. I reckon it's one of the most stressful trains of all time. And they had to get a train to Delhi, at which point the players got off the train. Then there was cameras at that train station. And then the players sort of dispersed in cars and wherever they went to next. But you can imagine what it would have been like walking off the field as a player or a fan leaving that stadium in near enough darkness, packing up your kit, and being told you're going to go on a train now, leave your things at the hotel or whatever the situation was. Just how frightening that would be. You would have family probably watching that game, close ones. You know, some of these guys are new fathers or second-time fathers or they're in relationships or they've got parents back home. How stressed they would be. You know, like we were nowhere near, as I said before, at no time did I feel stress or in danger or anything like that. But I've had dozens of friends reach out saying like, what's going on? So what it must have been like for those players, it's really, really frightening, which is important because they knew that something was going on before this game started. And it's important because they're being asked to play again in 72 hours at this moment in time. And I just cannot imagine, even if I told my family now that I was going back to do 2 shows in Delhi, they'd be like, what the fuck are you doing? Now, like, I'm not earning $1.5 million. So maybe that's a different situation. Maybe if I was. Yeah. So this is now look, I suppose
we're barely breaking even on it, to be honest.
Break even. If I can bite your arm off for break even. Fuck me.
Especially with the flight price gouging going on now. But maybe there's a reverse getting into India.
Yeah. Nothing happened, I suppose, but it did. It was close enough. Really, it's close enough to the warning shots that were just like.
It absolutely did.
How do you go on with this?
Look, it's such a cliche to say that questions need to be asked, and I am curious this week and beyond to try and observe what questions will be asked and what accountability there will be. I suspect there won't really be much, but to have a situation where it was weighed up whether or not they would play in Dharamshala and decided that, yes, we will play, only for the game to be, manually cancelled 10 overs in. So the game was an hour old. Slow over, right?
Yeah.
But the game was 10 overs old when presumably the same authorities, who we know have pretty good line into the government, went, no, this can't happen. The things that people thought might happen did happen.
Yep.
There was fighting, 100 kilometres away, potentially closer. And so for very, very naturally and reasonably, players and fans and those involved in going to that game who imbue the IPL administration and BCCI administration with a level of trust that it will be okay to go were very, very let down in that situation. And it is interesting that we're looking to get this going a couple of days later. I mean, you can absolutely reasonably understand why players may not feel a level of trust towards the same people that essentially put them in danger in that situation. And I just, it's funny, as I say this, your brain ticks over and goes, what consequences will there be for saying that? But it is, it's just an entirely reasonable thing to say. They were put in harm's way. And I do think that's consistent with a lot of people's views about the attitudes towards the players and the elements that make up the product that is the IPL, which is like, it's worth heaps of fucking money. You get there and you dance, boy. You play.
Mate, totally. And, one thing I said after going to our first game at the Chinnaswamy, that was our first IPL game that we'd been to, and it was a great experience for us because it made us realise, and being there in India during the IPL, how much that tournament means to people, and the conflict with Pakistan and the Kashmir situation since 1947, the first India-Pakistan war in 47 to 49, the second one in 1965, the attacks in Pahalgam a couple of weeks ago, the Mumbai attacks in 2008, all these things are so deeply felt, and like when the cricket is on, people feel so proud that this tournament goes out to the world and it's the best tournament. And,
absolutely.
And so I understand why a lot of people might feel like, well, now it's important to get this back on because the PSL's cancelled. So if we get ours on, we've sort of won this little battle here as well. Whilst Pakistan at the same time is saying, this is a win for us and whatever else the communication. I think it's probably best if we stay out of the India-Pakistan relations at this point. But
I think we've waded in.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
So
Matt Wade.
you know, like I sort of understand to a point, but I mean, surely there are many people who would be like, this is just inappropriate for this for to be asking guys to go back on the field. How do fans go back into stadiums? I know they're going to play games further south in the country, in your Hyderabad's, your Chennai's, and your Bengaluru's, where, you know, there probably is a fair enough distance away from the border there. So to ensure a bit more safety, I understand that. But, you know, go back to, like, how can you ask players to just go back out there and say, like, no, you're going to be good, you know, because how do you know that? You know, there's going to be mass security. You're going to have convoys, military convoys to and from the ground. You're going to have more security than you've ever had before. You're going to be safer here than you would be in Australia or South Africa or New Zealand or England. And, you know, we're going to be good to go. But, like, that's beyond the point, because on Thursday night, they put players and fans in harm's way. That's how I see it. And, like, watching it live, you know, that's
there was no extenuating circumstance that could not have been foreseen.
Right.
They just hedged their bets, and it didn't work out.
It's probably going to be okay.
Yeah,
this game's got to go on.
Yeah, so again, you can understand the reluctance of people to trust the same administrators again.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
It's yeah. I mean, you know, this idea of starting it on Thursday, like let's have it right and try and walk through it. You know, there's a war on, right? And cricket is a tool of war. It is. It's a soft power tool of war. We can see that there is point scoring happening around the suspension of the PSL, the fact that it tried to commence in the UAE and announced as much, only for that to somehow dissolve away, and now for the IPL to, you know, forthrightly say we're exploring kicking it off on Thursday. And, like, I think it's probably a bit one-dimensional for us to sit in South Melbourne, white guys, Anglo guys, to say, well, this is wrong and unsafe. You know, I think there's, as you were pointing out, I think there's a lot of complexity to people's feelings about this, and I think you've always got to have a modicum of stepping back around judgment from those who actually live it and breathe it every single day. Feelings between both nations. You can't generalize, you can't stereotype, and particularly in cricket, you know, where our experience of going to India, and it's a really privileged thing that we've had, you know, is to learn that, like, there is no plurality of opinion or mono opinion there. Sorry, like, there's a lot of people there who are very appreciative that there are alternate views expressed, because you don't get a lot of that in Indian cricket. You know, Indian cricket largely ladders up to, like, relentlessly positive conversation about 3 to 5 players, and that being the economy, you know, of it. But so it is complex. But by the same token, I think a lot of people would appreciate the expression of the idea that enforcing the return of players in these circumstances, where there is a war and cricket is part of it now, and to do so and to enforce it on a contractual basis, that is, you know, your money and your livelihood is dependent upon your return. When a war is escalating, when a ceasefire has been broken and reinstated, when every nation appears to be involved in this, because you're talking about a China-backed Pakistan, a Russia-backed India, and Marco Rubio trying to sort it out.
Yeah,
you can understand why you might go, you know, that's very, very hard-headed and insensitive to basically co-opt players as a proxy tool, you know, of this war. And I can understand why a whole bunch of players are now injured.
No one has said this, but I suspect, you know, what will be in the players' heads is that they instituted this rule this year that Harry Brook has fallen foul of, in that going into an auction, being selected, and then dropping out of the IPL will give you a 2-year ban from the IPL, right? So I wonder, like, if players are thinking, like, well, if I don't play these last 3 games, or 2 games for some of the guys that are already knocked out of the tournament, then you know, will I suffer the fate? You know, will I be punished for not going back? Will I be letting Indian down in their time of need? You know, the cricket must go on. People must feel good about the country again. The cricket is the thing that gives us most pride in this nation.
I presume that'll be a message to players as well.
Yeah.
You know, you'll be doing a great service to the people of, you know, insert nation by. So if I'm Pat Cummins, he's playing for Sunrisers Hyderabad. He's the captain of that side. His side is already knocked out of the tournament. He's got 2 or 3 games left. 3 games left of the tournament. He has got the World Test Championship to play for. If he decides that he's like, well,
I don't want to come back this Thursday. I don't think it's safe. My wife has just had a second child. You know, all these factors. He's paid handsomely for playing, but if he decides he doesn't want to go, is he going to be punished? Is he going to, like that? That will be a consideration. And that's that feels pretty fucking harsh.
Yeah, but it's real life. I mean, this is like there's a war, you know, and power is exercising itself. And I just want to say from the flip side as well. So, firstly, I agree with you, and I don't like. I think it's a very, very normal position that players who don't want to go back should not be pressured to go back, and they should not be penalised for not going back. By the same token, I do not judge those players who might go back as well. I mean, it's very, very easy to sit here as a business who does commerce into India, not always successfully, it must be said. But if a lot of us need to, I think a lot of us in a situation where we might have young families and a short earning capacity in our careers, where we've put all of our eggs into the athletic basket without a lot of other qualifications, are going, well, I need to get through a week of going back to India where I'm going to be more protected than we probably are at home. Remembering that these are TV shows that they're playing, that who knows whether they'll have people in stadiums, etc. I think we need to be very careful before labelling any player who decides to stay on as any kind of mercenary or unfortunately at the whims of an overly powerful Indian administration. I think the focus needs to be off them. But yeah, it will be interesting to see what posture franchises take in terms of pressuring players, to come back. And I think that I think a lot of coverage needs to be really careful before it speaks in any kind of generality about Indian people in this situation, because I would imagine there are huge numbers of Indian people who would support overseas players remaining at home in this situation. Not everybody is so fixated on cricket where it needs to be seen as a tool of strength and an expression of strength. So, but I do think the conversation will move on to the way India wields its power in cricket. You have to be careful in the conversation because this is such a moving feast that it may be that by the time this goes to where the authorities have decided players can stay home. So before we get the stick out and go this would be a disgrace. That's if they did it, they may not do it. And, for example, we received, private indications that it would be September when they kick it off again. Now, things have changed again. Who knows? But the first casualty of war is truth. You have to be very, very careful what you read. And so, it's difficult to start judging before we know exactly what's going to happen.
I did enjoy that. Basically, the IPL is going to be postponed originally until September, whereby the ECB said, "Well, play the games here," and then the next correspondence was, "We're starting on Thursday." So, I guess Pezza, it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Oh, mate, no doubt, interesting times ahead.
That's right.
I mean, we haven't really. I think because our time was in India, we haven't spoken as deeply about the experience of players in the PSL. Which, as far as I understand, is even scarier. There's a couple of Aussie players who got out of the Pakistan Super League and they learnt that. The airport that they left from was hit by enemy fire a few hours later, and that raises questions too. I mean, that'd be Indian fire striking on airports that former IPL players were just in. Not that I imagine that's part of the military command. Is is Sean Abbott there? He played for Sunrise. I mean, I'm being trivial about it, but those guys have gone through hell as well. And a very, very frightening experience.
One guy I spoke to said, playing cricket in the war zone, I didn't sign up for that. And, that's just, I mean, that's that's a perfect.
Well, you might have read the contract.
Yeah, you may well have.
Yeah,
done.
we'll see.
Well
force majeure.
So I mean, that's probably just that's the broad feeling. But I mean, everyone's going to feel a bit differently about it, given probably on their life situation, probably how much money they're being paid. What will it mean for their career longer term? You know, that fear of reprisal or punishment, perhaps. You know, there's so many factors that go into these things. But I guess what I'm saying, what we're saying is like these decisions should be taken out of players' hands, because these guys, yeah, imagine like being on a flight and then learning like a couple of hours later that where you were just from was bombed. You know, like that is fucking terrifying. And you think about, I think about like the people in the stadium that night as well, the fans like going there, just learning that like the players knew that something was awry beforehand. That those fans would have known that the area was hostile. To go there because their heroes are playing that night, it's too irresistible to let go, you know, because other games are being cancelled. This might be the last time we get to see them in this IPL. So you go there anyway. It's like the authorities are just putting people in harm's way, you know, and like it really is a blessing that nothing did happen, in a sense of like the field wasn't attacked. But can you actually guarantee that won't occur in the next couple of days' time if they do play again? I mean, people who are smarter than me will say, we're all good to go. But I mean,
it's very complicated, isn't it? You know,
yeah,
because we were where we were in India was completely safe. There was no indication of a change in vibe or environment or anyone's movements on account of the conflict, right? So, but by the same token, things can escalate quickly, and an airport that 72 hours ago had no signs of any tension or change in protocol, all of a sudden is cancelling a quarter of its flights.
Yep.
So for those who go back and are assured that you're completely fine in South India, and it should be said, like it is a very, very different place to North India in ways I think a lot of people here wouldn't really understand. Who's to say that won't change as well, you know, and that something that once seemed safe was no longer, you know. It's so again, I suppose the more we talk about this, the more I think this is really about trying to outline the difficulty of the players' situation in a scenario where they, for commercial reasons, understandably don't really want to say too much. But there are no guarantees anywhere.
I think about like getting on that train that they chartered. Like what you must have been feeling on that train. Like how do you know you wouldn't be a target of something else? You know, like I mean, cricketers are, as I keep going back to, they are so they have the highest profile. The highest profile. You know, they'd be the most susceptible to a high profile attack. It's happened before, of course, as I said, but you know, what you must be feeling like on that train, you with your friends, with your teammates, you're texting your friends and family, they'd be stressed out. They're probably stressing you out as well. Maybe you feel okay, but, maybe someone else in the team isn't doing okay. Some guys are booking flights home without telling, they're telling their franchises, like they just want to get out of there. There's no information. There's misinformation. There's disinformation going on. Even our friends in India are sharing things on Instagram, saying they're being let down by their journalists and their news anchors and stuff. They are spreading misinformation. Who knows what is truth? You know, you're in this situation where it's all happening so quickly, and all you want to do is just go home. That's probably all you want to do.
Well, that's how we felt, really. That was the mentality of people like, oh, you must be disappointed not to do the shows. And of course, mainly for people who bought tickets and were going to come to support us. But like, I'm sure a lot of people would understand, once you weigh a lot of those things up, and you're turning on news channels and seeing like, fire and brimstone and news of cancelled flights and people, fearing a stampede at Dharamshala and people yelling out that there are bombs coming. Your mentality immediately switches to like, well, I'm not flying closer to that. Like, it's time to go, Gretel Colleen styles.
Big Brother 2004.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, and I could totally understand why players feel that way too, but they are in a really tough situation because they have contracts. And like we should say as well, I mean, we're standing by for information about, and this is in no way a comparison to the players, but we're standing by for information about when this starts again, because we also have contractual obligations to cover the IPL. I mean, if it's back on Thursday, we'll cover the game. I mean, and we'll cover it as authentically as we can. But that's just a lot of people's incomes are connected to the the delivery of deliverables around these games.
Yeah.
So
if the game goes ahead on Thursday and it's sad, we're going to say it's fucking sad.
exactly.
That's so we'll do it as authentically as we can. But I guess that's where it's at. So what's next? We've learnt that Josh Hazelwood's got a niggle.
To be fair to him, he did. He didn't play the game we were at.
He did,
but yeah,
he did.
Yeah.
Now, do remember he did miss the World Test Championship final in 2023, where Scott Boland played and did well, of course, against India. But I suspect Hoff will be right for the World Test.
Cummins has got a finger issue as well.
Yeah,
one of them's cut off.
Yeah.
So just give him a.
Who else plays? Travis Head. Yeah. He's got a calf, doesn't he?
Well, there's a bunch of guys. I mean, like put Punjab's in the race. They've got heaps of Aussies. There's Xavier Bartlett, Josh Inglis, Aaron Hardy.
Stoinis.
Stoinis is there.
Yeah.
GT has Spencer Johnson.
Yeah. DC has Stark.
Yeah.
Fraser McGurk. Who else plays in the IPL?
Well, Ellis is with Chennai.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
So, interesting times ahead.
Bring the boys home.
Yep.
Boy, the series, bring the boys home.
Yeah, exactly.
Do we need to talk about what's next, or we've sort of done it?
It feels a bit inappropriate to go like, well, England's coming up, and we'll bring the pod back. Tickets to our Hammersmith Apollo show. I mean, seriously.
Yeah. Well, this is such we've had so many people reach out to us and ask us what it was like, and we just thought it was it was an opportunity to sort of jump on here and speak to people we haven't spoken to in a long time, so we put it out on the podcast. But yeah, the main podcast will come back in a couple of weeks' time. What are we at, Pez? We're at the 12th of May. So another couple of weeks we'll do the podcast previewing the World Test Championship final, the England summer. There's a whole heat coming up for TGC. And yeah, if you want to come and see us live, and we'll do the jokes that we weren't allowed to in India. Yeah, will we?
Oh, I think the tentacles reach pretty far for the people who wanted it killed.
So yeah, if you want to come and see us in Birmingham and London, special guest Jimmy Anderson in Birmingham.
Yeah,
Stuart Broad in London.
Sir James Anderson.
Indeed.
These days.
Indeed. He hasn't been knighted yet, has he?
I think he has. Yeah.
He has been knighted.
Yeah. I don't know. Oh, you mean the official ceremony?
The official ceremony.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Well, ask him. Are you
knighted? Are you knighted yet, mate? Vis-a-vis knighthood.
If you want to come along to those shows, there are still tickets available. Gradecricketer.com for your tickets. So that's how it was.
For us. And obviously in advance, for the people in the comments saying what you've got to understand is absolutely. And there's lots we don't understand.
Look,
and
you've got a big old free hit there.
Yeah, free hit. We're not from these countries. There's going to be some gaps in knowledge. It's just a perspective. We're not saying we fled war. We just left. Others are fleeing, and I hope everybody's safe and well.
Now tomorrow we're going to do a podcast on Gaza. So stick around for that.
We've got Ralph Horowitz on and Alex Pearce. It'll be explosive.
Interesting.
And Palestine Pete.
Yeah, Palestine Pete, Palestine Pearce.
Terrorist.
So we're solving things one day at a time here at TGC.
Yeah, that's it. At the grade cricketer.
At the grade cricketer.
I played threes at right oval.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us here at TGC. For those that just do the main podcast, a couple of weeks' time we'll be bringing that back and see you guys in the UK in a month's time or something. Wow. Jeez, things go quick. And I guess if the game starts on Thursday...
See you back for the big morning cricket show.
It's getting harder and harder, isn't it?
Yep.
But we'll do our best. All right. Thanks for joining us here on TGC. We'll see you guys as soon as we see you. Cheers.